Hey guys, welcome to another edition of Made While Medicated, Art with Me. In this version of Art with Me, I'm going to try something new, and I'm going to take one object. In this case, it's going to be a car. So I'm calling this one object art using one car. So what I did was found a photograph with this old car here, and then I separated the car out from its background to create multiple pieces of art using just the one cutout of the car or parts and pieces from that car. I started out using Photoshop, and this is Act 1 of 5 called the cutout. So once I pulled the car up in Photoshop, I decided to cut it out using a variety of different methods here. You can see me trying some different methods in Photoshop. If you've ever used it, you know there's many different ways to select objects. In this case here, I believe I'm using the quick select, which basically analyzes the difference between light and dark colors and finds the background. Doesn't always work great, so here I've switched to a Rubylith background, which, as you can see here in this video, is an old style way of doing things where you kind of mask out things, and it's originally called Rubylith. Anyway, that's why the background's red when you do this. So basically you paint the areas out that you want cut out and leave the other areas red, as you can see here. So I'm basically making some straight lines around the car so that the cutout is nice and smooth. In the case here of the tire, you can see that the tire isn't an actual circle, it's more of an ellipse. So here I'm making my selection more elliptical. And once I have that selection made, then I can use that boundary to cut around, or paint around in this case here. So all I'm doing is using the paintbrush to mask and paint out areas and separate the car from the background. Here I'm doing a little clone stamp, taking out the grass around the tires here and just basically cleaning up some of the edges here. Then I had to cut the windows out so that we could get the grass out of the windows and everything in there, so we could have transparent glass here. So this was a little bit tricky, so you can see here I took a little bit of time, some small brushes, and went ahead and just basically outlined the boundaries, as you can see here in white. I'm just basically outlining and coloring or painting in what I don't want to be selected. So that's all we're doing here. I had a little problem here with that piece of paper, and you'll see here in a second I have to do some reconstruction here on the steering wheel and on the chrome and windshield wipers here. So here I'm trying to recreate the steering wheel a little bit, and I know it's an elliptical shape, so again I'm putting on an ellipse here and painting in with some black to try to mimic the steering wheel. And here I'm taking bits and pieces of the chrome, and I'm gonna use the clone stamp tool. Actually, right there what I did was copy and pasted a piece of the chrome, and I kind of put it in and kind of reshaped it, and now I'm using the clone stamp tool to try to mesh that in a little bit. You really can't tell with the windshield wipers and the chrome. It wasn't a critical piece, so I didn't really worry about it too much. The same with the steering wheel, but I could see it didn't look quite right there, so we're going to zoom up and clean it up a little bit and give it some little hand knobs there and such. So I'm going to go ahead and save this car off, and it looks like we have a pretty good clean copy there. Now we're going to start our first art piece. going into this art piece, I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to do. I had no plan actually established. So here you can see I picked a stock background and tried to put the car in, but I didn't like the way that was going. So here's Act 2, and I call this the tick, because when this is all said and done, the final image to me kind of looks like a tick. So all I did was basically took a car, mirror imaged the copy of it, and then started making multiple copies of 2 of the cars and shrinking them down each time to give the illusion of perspective going off in the distance. So we did lots of different cars here. I don't know how many iterations of this I did, but and again, as you can see, during this process, I'm kind of just thinking as I'm going, and like I said, I honestly had no plan going into this. This is just me kind of free-flowing with my design process, my thought process, and you know, I just kind of designing this by feel as I kind of go here. So as you see here, I'm kind of running out of canvas space, so I decided to make my canvas a little bit larger here to give me a little bit more room to work with these cars. So we'll expand that up a little bit, and now I have a little bit more room, and I can go ahead and make these cars off. So once I got to this point here, I kind of thought that almost looked like a helmet of sorts, or a mask or something from a distance. The interesting thing with one object art, and I've done some of these before, is that the main object is meant to be viewed, you know, from a distance. Obviously you can tell it's one car, but when you view the actual object from a ways away, you can't tell that they're all individual cars necessarily. You kind of look at it and say, huh, that's interesting looking. What the hell is it? So yeah, so it's just a different concept. I haven't seen too much of this work being done, so you know, again, it's just something that I do while medicated. These ideas just kind of come to me and kind of flow, so I just kind of go with it. And here I'm adding some more cars to the background, changing the shading and the color a little bit of some of these to add a little bit of contrast. And here again, we're just resizing and kind of putting some of these cars in the background here, and giving a little bit of definition to the bottom of this. I originally kind of thought of this as possibly making another, what I call a big boat, and a big boat would be using objects to make it look like a boat floating in space or in the clouds, similar to the Fish album called Big Boat, where they had an industrial complex with some clouds billowing that kind of looked like a steamship flying in the sky. So I'll put that up right here so you guys can see what I'm talking about if you don't familiar with Fish. This is the album, and this is what it kind of looks like. So I've done several of these types of big boats before, and that's originally what, again, I thought I was going to do here, was kind of make some sort of a big boat. But again, it ended up to me looking a little bit like a tick. And this is the point at which it started looking like a tick to me. When I put these 2 cars on down at the bottom, it almost looked like some fangs or a mouth. And then, whoops, right here I'll show you, it kind of looked like some eyes right there, right there. So I thought, well, that kind of looks like a tick, and I was like, that's interesting. So I decided to then work on the background a little bit, as I was like, oh, every once in a while you'll get to a point and you're like, that kind of looks like the image that I want, the final image, but I'm not sure. So started playing with the background, and then I get off on doing some gradient work here. And this is the mind of somebody that has ADHD, so when you're doing this sort of stuff, you kind of get sidetracked into one thing. So my mind kind of works like that. I kind of get into gradients, and I'm focused on that for a while, and so on and so forth. And so here you can see I'm still working on the background, and I'm working on trying to do a little bit of shading and shadow work to the whole entire object, so it looks like it is kind of blending in with the background here. And again, I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing here, so I'm just kind of doing some playing around with the different blending modes and looking at it up close and getting an idea of what it might look like. So here's some more backgrounds, just kind of playing around. I don't know if you've noticed my logo in the lower right hand corner. As the video progresses, that is kind of rolling along. So if you can see right here, you're about a quarter of a way through this video. It's a long video. I'm gonna try to narrate the whole video with you guys as we go along here and try to explain to you what I'm doing. So what I'm doing here is now I'm taking parts and pieces of the car. So I thought that the front bumper looked interesting with that grill, so I thought I'd use that for parts. And then I took one of the lights, and then I took these side ports, and basically all I'm doing is separating them out and putting these objects on their own layers, so that they're separate from the car, and then I can use these in the artwork somewhere else. So I decided this chrome piece might be an interesting piece. I wasn't sure exactly where I was going to use any of this stuff, but here I'm just making an outline using Bezier curves. You can see me adjusting all the handles on the Bezier curve handles here, getting it adjusted so that it follows the curves of this chrome. So once I get that all tightened up and the lines following around as accurately as possible, here we go. We'll get a few more to do here. Once that's done, I think it's right here, we'll be finished. And then I'll just cut that and put it on its own layer, give it a name, and I can use it later. Same thing here with the hubcap. You can see another car image in the hubcap, so I thought that was kind of cool and thought we might be able to use that for something, as well as some of the hubcap itself. So again, put an ellipse around it, copy it, put it on its own layer, and now you can see the parts right there. So then I'm going to take those parts and decide what to do with them. I took the chrome bumper and put it in the middle underneath here, and I thought that was an interesting look, kind of so that you couldn't see through there, and it kind of looked like, you know, a deck or a surface or something. I'm not really sure, or something industrial or whatever. And then when I lifted this up, I kind of got this happy accident, so to speak, where I got these little wings that kind of popped up, and I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. So you can see here I decided to make a few more of these wings and put some more of the grills in the middle, finish that up. And here you'll see just in a second, I'm just doing some minor tweaks and adjustments here on this stuff. Oh, there's another one of these where oh yeah, the wings, and then it kind of made some sort of interesting thing on the front. But you can see all that is the chrome bumper, but by scaling it up really large, it has a whole different look. And when combined with everything else and looking off in a distance, it almost looks like a spaceship now, a little bit, with some wings and the kind of like a big boat. So again, like I said, I was going for that, and in this case here, it could be a big boat tick, I suppose. Here I was again trying to work with the bumpers again. I thought maybe I could do something. Sometimes these ideas work out, sometimes they don't. In this case here, I don't believe I ended up using this for anything. But you can see here I'm just kind of testing out some layers, turning things on and off, trying to see what works and what doesn't. I had some other things turned off when I was working on that bumper, so once I turned those cars on, it kind of messed things up a little bit, but that's all right. Then I took the light and kind of tried to figure out where to position that in there. Wasn't sure really what I was going to do with it, but I went ahead and put some masking on it, tried to blend it in and make it look like it was actually part of this main object. So again, doing a little tweaking here, moving stuff around. Stuff wasn't perfectly mirror imaged, but that's okay. Again, I did a lot of this stuff by eye, just kind of eyeballing it and just kind of letting it flow. Here are the ports that were on the cars. I just thought those might look interesting. And basically, I think what I'm trying to do here is make it look like this is like the front of a boat or a ship. I call it a big boat, but we're, you know, most likely some sort of weird alien spacecraft or something like that. So here's that chrome piece that I took out and put that up on the edges here, kind of making it look like some antennae or something like that, and then putting them on the front, making it look like some sort of a grill or something. So here I put on a couple guidelines to try to keep everything centered, and I made a copy of that and then kind of blended it in. I thought that looked kind of neat. So then I think what was next after I do a little bit of tweaking here was to take the hubcaps and make those into some sort of ports or eyes or something like that, or you'll see here in a second. Oh no, I guess we're working on the antennas next. Oh no, there is the grill. All right, there's one of them and there's the other one, so maybe like headlights or something, I'm not really sure. This one here I put on that made it kind of look like a tailpipe or some sort of exhaust that's shiny, but I don't know. Again, just playing around. Again, made while medicated. This whole thing was made while medicated, as is this right now as I'm narrating this. So it's all made while medicated, as you guys know if you've watched any of my other videos. And if anyone's actually watching this, which I don't know if anyone would, 17 minutes in, just kind of listen to me talk about some sort of weird art that I'm doing. But anyway, this is what it kind of ended up looking like. I put it in a black background. I thought it looked cool. So I wasn't really satisfied with that. So I was like, well, maybe I could take the whole thing and make it into some sort of other art piece. So here I'm using the multiple clone or the multiple copy and transform tool, where if you take your object and rotate it and scale it around a point, then it will do it multiple times and in the multiple increments. So here you can see I rotate it a little bit, shrink it down a little bit, and then just do it multiple times, and it creates a fractal of sorts, or a shell of sorts. So that's all I'm doing here, is just kind of trying to make that shell or that fractal, if you were. So I thought that was kind of neat, so I saved that off. I thought I might use it again, but I wasn't really sure. Again, just kind of experimenting here and trying to come up with some sort of a final product for this tick looking thing or helmet. I don't know what you guys think it might look like. It might look different to someone else. I have no idea. But so again, just playing around here. In the end, I decided to go with this 4 configuration with just 4 of these placed opposite each other. And I thought that might work, so that's where I left it. And then the middle seemed appropriate for some sort of a sun or globe or something that was emanating light or something like that. So here I made a sphere and put some gradient on it and then was working on the outer glow, trying to make it look like that orb was creating some energy or something like that and glowing. So just playing with the sliders here, trying to figure out what looks best. I wasn't really satisfied with it, so I decided to put a lens flare on there, a starburst or something like that, to make it look like the energy was emanating out, so you can see how it kind of puts that on there and kind of glows out a little bit. So I'm just tweaking with that a little bit here, trying to make that work. And I'm not sure if it's going to work at this point, so again, just playing with some blending modes in different positions, layer order and things like that, and other brushes that have lens flares. So again, I'm trying to combine that lens flare and the glowing orb to make it look like the energy is emanating from that. The background was black, so I decided to put a galaxy in there as a background, and then I was like, well, maybe the Earth might look nice instead of that glowing orb. So found a picture of the Earth and shrunk it down, put it in there, and then again decided whether or not I wanted the Earth glowing or emanating light, or maybe they're shooting light into it. I put another background on here of like a supernova or something like that that's exploding, and tried to blend that in as well. Here I'm putting in a gradient in the middle to try to shine or gradiate the color of the four objects to make the illusion like that light's coming out from the center. So you can see here I'm going from dark to light, and I wasn't sure which version I liked better, whether or not the light was kind of going in or coming out. So here it would be like the light is shining into the Earth, so you're getting a shadow on the outside here, so it's kind of darker, but it's light on the inside, if you know what I mean. And then I put like some sort of a ray in the middle, kind of making it look like there's energy coming out from each one of these craft that's shooting energy into the Earth. So I copied these rays 4 times around, and then copied them one more time and rotated them 45 degrees. You'll see here, there we go. And just kind of doing that. I think then I decided that I would put some smoke or something like that on there. So I went and found some cloud brushes or smoke brushes or something like that to put on the end of each one of these rays, making it look like, you know, there's some steam or some gas or something coming out from each one of these rays. Whether or not the rays are going in or out, I'm not really sure, but you know, that's up for the person interpreting the art, I guess. As the artist, I'm not really sure even myself whether or not those gas clouds are coming out or going in. But either way, it doesn't really matter. All I'm doing here is trying to blend the clouds in a little bit more so they look like they're actually coming out from each one of those lines. And what are we doing next here? Let's see. Oh yeah, so we wanted to put the clouds on top of here, making it look like these clouds were kind of coming on the crafts themselves. So again, using the warp tool, which is a great little tool to warp and pull this stuff into shape. So putting on 4 different clouds to give it a little bit of a different feel. I didn't use the same brush for each one. Each cloud is unique. In here I'm just kind of stretching things out again to blend everything in correctly, or make it look a little bit better anyway. So I wasn't sure, I guess, if that was done, but I went off and saved this off. I was kind of done playing with this one. I feel like I've exhausted that. And then I was like, I wasn't sure if it was done or not, so I decided to throw in this car again and decided to stretch it out and just kind of make it look like it was coming out from the middle, zooming out. So again, it gets a little bit weirder as I go along here, but I was having fun with the warp tool. So I went ahead and warped these cars and made them look like they're kind of coming out from the center, but then that kind of destroyed all the work that I just did, but that's okay. So what I'm doing here is just blending the two cars one on top of the other. Here I'm kind of taking the chrome pieces that are going together and using masking and just kind of blending one into the other. I didn't like the way that the cars here were so solid and overpowering everything else, so we're gonna go ahead and blend that stuff out using some gradients and some overlay modes, or I should say some blending modes. So here I'm just kind of blending them out. I thought that might create an interesting effect. Whether or not it's going to work or not, I wasn't sure. So I didn't like how they were all blended out totally, so I went and used a mask and brought a little bit of them back in. What was I doing here? Oh, I was trying to make it look like these cars were actually kind of coming in as little spaceships. And there you just saw me messing with some music. Anyway, so I'm using the warp tool again and kind of wanted to make these ghost, like a ghosting thing. So again, we just put them around the four corners like that. And at this point here, I was really getting tired of this, so I think I decided to end this one at this point. The only other thing left was basically doing some cropping here to, yeah, I guess I was working on the background some more here. Oh, that's right, yes. So working on the background, and this ended up working out really well. I liked the way that this looked. It kind of almost looked like there was a fire in behind everything, and it was kind of one of those happy accidents that happens. So here again, I'm just kind of blending in this orb to this image, and then trying to blend in these cars a little bit that are kind of emanating out from the sides. So we're using a really light brush stroke with a really low opacity here, like 26% as it looks like. So again, we'll just finish this little bit up here, and we're getting really close to finishing this one up. So again, what else are we doing here? Change some preferences. I don't know what I was doing there. And again, playing background work, whether or not I like the orb or the black background. Now that I'm looking at it now, I kind of liked that black background, which I thought kind of looked really neat. At some point you kind of go back through and you're like, what looks better to me? And sometimes what I think looks good doesn't necessarily look good to other people, so, and vice versa. I've had stuff that I thought looked like crap and other people are like, wow, that's fantastic. But anyway, art is in the eye of the beholder, right? So anyhow, this is some weird art, I give you that, but I had fun doing it nonetheless. So that piece was done, and it looks like I was just making some layer comps here and just doing some comparisons from start to finish, and I think that was the final image for that one. So now we'll go on to art installation number 2, or act number 3, which is called Fractal Space. And Fractal Space I was pretty interested in doing the multiple cloning, where I take the car and change its rotation point to someplace else on the page, and as you rotate it and scale it, it will rotate it and scale it proportionally and create a fractal looking object here. What we're looking at, what I'm doing right here, is I'm doing some initial preparation work. I wasn't sure what size piece of paper I wanted to put this on, or size the image needs to be, which is always a challenge. You never know, how big the final image is going to end up being, but I usually go with larger because it's easier to shrink things down. So I think this sheet here might have been 1024 by 768, or maybe 24 inches by 36 inches. I honestly can't remember, but here you can see me playing with some of these cars where I'm making them into fractal type of images, where we're scaling the image up and down, changing the layer order, and so on and so forth. So again, this is just me trying to get my mind wrapped around what I want to do here. So this is my work process. Here, let's see. You can see how I take the car, scale it, and then rotate it, and it goes around one point. And all you do is, to do that, if you're a Photoshop person, is it's a multiple keystroke process where you hold down, I think it's, what is it? It's Control. Oh, let me look at my keyboard. I can't remember. It's Shift, Control, Command, and T. So basically what you're doing is you're copying the layer, you're copying what you're doing with your scaling, and you're moving, and then you're repeating it over and over again. So that's basically all I'm doing here. It's not really that difficult, but and in this case here, once I had this kind of perspective looking type of thing, I wanted to make it into a series of 4 and kind of wrap it around and work with other colors and things like that, and recolor the cars. And again, I wasn't sure where I was going with this. I don't believe I used these pieces at all right here. I think I used a part of it, but I don't think I ended up using these 4 things like this. Although I do like the blue color of the car, the way that looked once it was blue. But anyway, so I decided to go a different direction with this, and you'll see here how I have one of these cars that's kind of lighter or darker, and that kind of led me into a yin-yang type of situation where you have reverse polarities of things. So here you can see how the car is darker when I reverse the layer order here, versus when I copy it over to here and reverse this layer order back, the car is on the lighter side. So you can see here we have a darker car versus a lighter car. So yin and yang, or yin and yang, something like that, right? So again, layer order, and kind of move them together. And then I made another one going the opposite way, like this, which I thought was kind of neat, and tried to get it to match up size-wise like this, so that the bumpers are all kind of going together. And then I thought that might be neat to make these opposite, because you can see here again how we have the dark car versus the bright car. So again, changing layer order down bottom. So black, white, yin, yang, reverse polarities. So I thought that kind of looked neat, but I wasn't sure about using this thing here. And again, trying to come up with some other kind of interesting thing here. So this one ended up being more of a fractal that will go to a vanishing point right there in the middle. So you can see how the car goes around and spirals in. And I thought that was neat, so went ahead and copied that, mirror imaged it. And when I did that sort of thing, first I'm changing the layer orders. I forgot that there was a command to change the layer orders all at once, and I was doing it manually here, and which was time consuming. I hadn't used Photoshop in a while, so I was a little rusty at this point, but I used to teach Photoshop. I don't anymore, but and I haven't taught it in a couple of years, so I was a little rusty here, so getting back into it again. So here I'm just mirror imaging those, and thought that was a neat look. So yeah, here we have it from far away, and I thought maybe it would be interesting to maybe change the color of these cars, maybe put a gradient on top of them, or just change the color or shade or something like that. So that's all I'm doing here. You can see me playing with some color overlays, some gradient overlays, and just changing the different settings. So here we have hue and saturation that I was changing, and then put some special effects on there. So I changed them to like a blue and a gold car, just to give a little bit more contrast. So again, I was trying it with these cars as well, and then decided I think not to do that, but I changed the color a little bit there. Okay, what else are we doing here? Again, we're just playing with more coloring, just kind of trying to get those colors to work. And then on to the background. So once you have the main image done, the background always is interesting to play with, because it sometimes can make or break the image here. So I wasn't totally satisfied with that image, so again I was playing with some more configurations of the car, and just kind of spitballing, if you will, just trying to see what I could come up with, what looked interesting, and so on and so forth. I guess I hadn't gone with a larger, I'd been going with scaling the car down, making it smaller, but I hadn't gone with making it larger. So in this case here, the larger car ended up looking interesting as well. I don't believe I went with this background here, but we're working towards what ended up being one of my favorite images here in a little bit. And that was basically taking the car and making it really large and spinning it around. But here what I was trying to do was make the cars more muted so that they would be more of a background image. But I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do here, so I took those images, mirror imaged them, spun them around, and just kind of played with them a little bit. Wasn't sure if I liked it or not. And then I thought these circle areas might be interesting if they had some glow coming out from the middle. So that's what I was doing here, was just trying to put some masking in the middle there, and you can see that I'm doing that right here. Just trying to see if I could get those spots to glow, but you know, looking at the background there, I don't like it really at all. It's not working for me right now. I don't know what I was thinking back then, but then again, when you're medicated, sometimes things look a little different. So here we are. I guess I decided at that point that wasn't looking really good, so here I am again trying to make the car larger, and this is where it happened. I kind of spun around one central point like this, and I really liked the way that that looked abstract wise, because that's really what I wanted for the background, was the car but looking more in an abstract fashion. You know, not necessarily thinking that it's a car, but more that it's in the background. So anyway, I liked that. I just don't think it was, I think it was a little strong, but so again, here I am playing with some more car rotations around those fractals. Yeah, here we are repeating that to the other side. But I think I was probably looking at that background thinking that it was probably overpowering the front images. So here I am trying to mute that down a little bit or give it some sort of a gradient look, just to kind of get that background separated out. So I ended up going with this gradient in the background, making it look like there's like a fire or a burning central core to this type of thing. So I liked this look, and I thought that looked pretty neat actually. But you can see how those 3 holes that I masked out kind of show up a little bit more brightly here. So I thought maybe we needed some sort of a core central sun. I always seem to have that central core energy sun type thing, furnace, I don't know, in the middle. So again, just playing with the orb here to try to make it look like all of that light energy was coming or emitting from this one source. So playing with the different gradients here, different colors, trying to decide what I want it to look like. And here I thought maybe we'd put a car in the middle of it and warp it out so that it looks kind of funny like this, and make it look like that's where the car factory is coming from. Or something like that, I don't know. Anyway, it's a weird looking image, but it's kind of fun. I mean, if you were looking at that from a distance, you might go, what's that? And look at it up close and go, huh, that's only one car. That's interesting, but weird. All right, anyway, art wants to be weird, right? You know, I got to be different, and if everyone was doing this, then it wouldn't be interesting, I don't think so. But anyhow, so going with the starburst here again in the middle, trying to see if we can't enhance this a little bit more. Looking at the individual layers, seeing if I have any other options to rotate some of this stuff around and make some other images. Always kind of second guessing myself. Kind of like that image to begin with, but sometimes when you separate things out, you can see things that you didn't see before. So all I'm doing here is turning layers on and off, just trying to see if there's something else that I might want to do here. I really liked that image right here, so I decided to kind of work on that a little bit more and see if I could blend some of this car into this other car here, or the cars into each other, I should say. I don't think I decided to change anything there, or maybe I did. Let's see, I don't know what I'm doing here. Okay, we're copying it, rotating it, and doing a little masking here. So I copied it on top of itself, and then I'm using some masking to kind of blend it into each other, because I wanted it to look more abstract. I didn't want it to necessarily look like it was all the car. I wanted it to kind of look industrial, and to me it kind of looks like some sort of a turbine fan or engine or something. It's just an interesting kind of looking thing. So anyway, went ahead and blended that stuff in, and these two 4 things here, wasn't really quite sure what I wanted to do with them, and I think we ended up just keeping them the same way as they were. But here I am again, just thought process, working on trying to figure out what looks good and what doesn't look good. This was an idea I totally scrapped altogether, didn't use it at all. So but I did like that background, so I just saved that off, and I liked this look by itself without anything else in it. So yeah, this looks really kind of interesting. There's many images in here that I kind of saved off as I was going, As you're playing with these blending modes, you can see here how you get all kinds of different interesting colors and different looks, so to speak. So here I am just kind of playing with those blending modes. Blending modes can be pretty powerful. So here we are in Act 4 after getting that other one done. This one here, Road to Infinity, again, just another use of the car. This one here, I thought a spiral might be interesting. Again, I wanted to kind of spiral it in, and what I ended up with kind of looked like a road going into a central core. So here I'm going to put the car off to the side, and I'm going to find the center point and get that rotated just right. So I'll put that center point there. There we go. So we got it rotated in like that, and I thought that was pretty neat right there. So I thought possibly it almost looked like there could be a path or something going down through there. So I decided to put a path in here, a splined path, so that you can see me doing that here. I'm drawing in the spline, all these points I'm putting in, and this was a little bit of a long process, so I put it in, and then I had to go and readjust all these points to make it fit and look even, so that it didn't look strange. I wanted it to taper from large to small, but when it went around the corners, of course they have to be a little bit bigger. So all this was done by eye, and as you can see me here, just adjusting all of the Bezier curves to kind of fit the curves of the cars going down. So some of the time I might take some of the points off or add more points in, but mostly it's just adjusting those Bezier handles and moving them around a little bit and tweaking them. So I really like playing with the Bezier curves. It's a lot of fun, and it's pretty powerful in Photoshop. Once you learn how to use the Bezier curves, there's quite a bit you can do with them for making paths and selections and things like this. So pretty close. I got almost all of it done. Sometimes when you're zoomed up really close like I am here, it's hard to tell the overall view, so you have to jump out sometimes like this and kind of look at it. There, I did a quick save. Here I am putting in a center kind of gradient, central gradient in the middle, and that glow effect really works good with this. So pretty interesting image, I thought. I don't know if this is my favorite out of all of them, but I'm kind of liking it. So here again, we're putting in that central energy core, and again deciding what I want that to look like. So playing with different gradients, different colors, just trying to get that to look like the light is emanating from there. So, and I think here I was just trying to see if I could blend that other image in and make it part of this image, but I don't believe that ended up working. It just ended up looking a little bit too cluttered, I thought, but I just used the outer portion of that. Then I had to copy some more of these cars. It looked like we still needed to get a few of them up here. They weren't quite, there wasn't quite enough of them up there, so had to do one at a time here and just kind of put a few up, finish that up, and save that off again. I'm getting close to the end here, as you guys can see. So just playing around with that gradient again and just deciding on some colors and such. And then in the final act, I decided to put some cars on there. You'll see here in a minute. So the final act here, Act 5, the final act is just basically kind of reviewing everything from the cutout car to the initial tick image and how that evolved from that. And I really like the way the perspective looks on that. And we ended up with this image that kind of looked like the tick with multiple teeth kind of looking at you. So then put this on and kind of ended up looking like a big boat. And I liked the way that looked. This was an interesting image by itself, kind of looking like a seashell sort of thing. And again, we had this final image that looks like an explosion. Didn't show you creating this one, but this was another one that I had created in this one as well. Some of these were smaller images that I had created and just forgot to record, honestly. But I did all this stuff with that other image there. That's the one you guys saw. And again, I think this was probably one of my favorite images. I don't know why it appeals to me so much, but I just like the way that looks. I like that look right there with that color. It looks really interesting. And then putting that central light in there really changes the look quite a bit. Really looks kind of nice. And then we put these on top, and that's what I ended up with for the final image. And then this last one here that we were just looking at, we had one without the glow, which looks really pretty clean. But then with the glow, I kind of liked the way that looked as well. It kind of looks like it's emanating. And then I put the cars on, kind of driving down the ramp. I didn't show you guys that, but that was my final image. And that's it for this edition of Art with Me, One Object Art. Thanks for watching, guys.